Happy later Labor Day weekend, traders. I'm going to try to keep her short here. Some things I'm looking at here on the time frames here that I've got on my SPX chart right here, guys. These are my monthly fibs based off the monthly 5 SMA. These are my weekly fibs based off the weekly 5 SMA. And we're starting a new month, so all those SMAs are going to be rising. Okay. Uh, I'm still got this monthly here based off of August's level. I am starting to adjust the 5 SMA for SPX to the upside here. Okay, guys. So some little takeaways I got going on here. We have an indecisive candle for last week. Okay. We came into a major positive gamma wall. The most important positive gamma wall is 6,500 in the markets, suggesting we could start seeing dealer distribution at this price point as a possible major target has been achieved in the markets to kick off the month of September. Be very mindful of that. The trend is up. We are inside week on week. Uh, uh, Week on week value. Okay, so we are inside that value right here. Okay, so basically what we are looking for a trend to the downside is a break of last week's open. That was 64.45. Okay, so last week's open was 64.45. So we're looking for a break of that for a potential trend to the downside, retesting the bigger trend, this trend line, and doing a second back test of this uh, weekly 5 SMA here on the SPX. That's the first sign of possibly a bigger back test setting up going into this week. Okay, but like I said, as you can see with your fibs, we are above that fib midline, so the trend is up. You have to stick with the trend until otherwise. And the uh, gamma exposure is positively configured to the upside. So while we do have some 25 VIX calls being bought out for October in some size, we do have to be very mindful of that going forward here. Okay, guys, so just be very mindful of that. Okay. Um, Anything else I can say right here? That just gives you pretty much close rundown. Things that I'm looking at here, we have back in 2022, VIX was really low. Okay, and during September. And I do want to point out here, guys, if you zoom in here, one of the daily here, and right here, that green line right there, technically we still have a gap, all-time low gap that has not been satisfied on the VIX. So be very mindful of that. Uh, the movie, there's suggestions that we may have hit a capitulation on the VIX, already, and we're going to start trending higher on the VIX. But I do want to point out here there is one unfilled gap to the downside on the VIX. So I would be much more comfortable, knowing that that gap was filled to be saying that, hey, the markets are going to sell off from here. Kicking off September, we're going to start selling off. Well, we still do have that small little gap there that uh, has not been satisfied. So be very mindful of that, in your trading, uh, and bottom line is we're walking this moving average. We continue to walk this moving average down. That could all change this week. But like I said, they were buying the 25s for October, the 25 VIX for October for insurance. Yeah. And those are more like hedging situations. It's not uh, in theory, that's not a positioning situation. So let's be very mindful of that. Now, NVIDIA, on the other hand, give me a second here. So a warning we got going on here, guys, is our MACDs have rolled over here on NVIDIA. We are below the daily 5 SMA. We're below the weekly 5 SMA. Okay. We are still holding critical support so far. Okay. but we could be setting up for a back test of this prior breakout. Now, the month of September, the 5 SMA on the monthly will be walking up to those prior all-time highs. So that could very well be putting 153 in the cards for September. So we have to be very mindful of this going forward here. That 153 could be very much in the cards for September for NVIDIA, and that is 8% of the S&Ps. So be very mindful here. If this thing goes, it's probably going to, at the very least, flatten out the S&Ps for the month of September, at the minimum, if not worse. So we have to be very mindful to keep a very close eye on this going forward here. Okay, so but bottom line is, on the smaller time frames here, you go over to the 2 hour, that support is still valid. The more times you hit support, eventually it is going to break. But be very mindful that below the 5 SMA suggests, the weekly 5 SMA suggests momentum is waning. So we have to be very mindful of that going forward here. So, definitely keep that thought in the back of our mind. We've got the earnings right behind us here. Um, a nice reset back down to the 153 is not a bad idea. So uh, we'll see how it plays out here going forward here. So just something to definitely keep in the back of our minds. Some other little takeaways that I want to have here, guys. Uh, as you can see here, momentum seems to be stalling out here on the NDX. So that's our Nasdaq. And we have a potential more bearish candle. We closed right near the week lows here on the NDX going into next week, suggesting it would not be hard at all for the NDX to be breaking prior week lows very easily going into the first of next week. Very, very easily, and then we'd be losing the weekly 5 SMA at the same time, suggesting that then we would be looking for potential back tests. The trend line itself is probably not overly supportive. Uh, you know, on a week-to-week basis, you're probably looking at this area right here around the 22,910 as potentially being a week-on-week support, as it's bounced off there once before. So 22,910, you can actually put a little rectangle right here, right into those prior week lows, right there. A potential move down into the 22, 910 area, and that trend line. That would be our first main test. Could be kicking off very early next week. So definitely keep that on watch, and then potentially down to our monthly 5 SMA. Okay, and this is a prior all-time high, multiple month highs on monthly highs on the NDX. That's a monthly high breakout. So we could very well be coming down here into the 22,100 area. Yeah, 22,100, 22,200 area. These prior breakout highs here on the NDX here in the coming week. So definitely keep these ideas in the back of our mind here that the NDX is actually looking a lot weaker than all the other indices, and largely because of the weakness we're seeing in the video. Okay, guys, some little things on takeaways that I got going on here on the Russell. So we are in a breakout, uh, high breakout here based off of last October's October's price discovery to the upside here. Okay, guys. So bottom line is the trend is up on the Russell till proven otherwise, especially above the weekly 5 SMA. It looks all smooth selling right now, seeing rotation going on into the markets. Probably going to see a lot more upside in energy and some of these slow hanging fruit in the markets from what we're seeing here in the Russell. This is not the area, and this is one of the last areas I'd be looking to short the market currently. Okay, and so be very mindful of that. very dangerous to be trying to short this pattern. So uh, it's not necessarily something I want to go long, but then again, it's not definitely not something that I want to be going short. Okay, and if you go here on the 2 hour, I got the wrong one. 2 hour, um, you know, uh, uh, basically dips a back test down into this range right here is still by the dip till proven otherwise, or a back test of the weekly 5. The weekly 5 is actually dipping a little bit too low, in my opinion, at this point. The weekly 5 will step up next week, so that would put us probably into that support area. So to be very mindful of that. The weekly 5 will probably step up the first of next week, being a very good potential back test to go long here on the Russell. So be very mindful of that going forward here. So guys, one last little takeaway on the volatility futures. The VX futures hit all-time lows back in 2024, and then again in uh, late 2024. Uh, so 2023, 2024, you hit those historic lows here on VIX. We filled this fair value gap here, came back down and back tested. We still have a fair value gap here that has not been satisfied on the VX futures. So in my opinion, if we have capitulation in the market, uh, you know, satisfying this fair value gap in the VX futures, getting everybody and their brother on board in the bullish side, even at these extremely high valuations, this kind of makes sense to me that, they're going to they might potentially come down here, try to fill this fair value gap before we see massive sell side pressure in the markets. And they could be doing this, going into the rate cut, September rate cut, going into October or whatever. And so for me, I don't think it's wise to rush in buying uh, volatility puts, currently in the markets, or selling volatility puts currently in the markets. And remember, guys, we're at historic levels of how short volatility is in the markets. So the squeeze in volatility can happen at any moment. So everybody and their brother is shorting volatility. Okay. And, so when you have those crowded trades, they can just completely explode at any moment. So that's the bearish case on the markets, that volatility could explode at any moment. But I'm still keeping a very close eye on this fair value gap that still has not been satisfied, and something that I would ideally like to see happen before I start becoming a more bigger perma bear in the markets. Okay, pretty much what I'm thinking here. Please like my video if you get a chance, retweet, comments, or whatever. Retweet stuff on X if you get a chance and stuff. Sorry I haven't been around. My cat disappeared and possibly died. So he won't be chiming in on the videos anymore, giving his insight. And we got a different cat from the pound. And wouldn't you know, I brought her home, and I think she's pregnant already. So we may have a bunch of kittens around here soon. So, guys, I will be seeing you, and good luck with your trading. I'd be really careful, though, still on the short side. There's nothing. We're getting a little bit of signal on the Russell that, by losing the weekly 5, that things might be starting to roll down. But technically, that's not. So where's the NDX? That's not a confirmed thing here. The trend's still up. We got the weekly 5. We got that really bad weekly close. That's a bad weekly close potential for the month. Month of August. That is potentially a bad close. And like I said, that breaking last week's low, that would be our first step to thinking that there's going to be a bigger correction in the markets. We don't know that's going to be the case. Futures 449. Futures might be open here. Let me check it in queue. Are futures open? We are on a holiday, so I'm not for sure if they've got the futures open or not. Monday, yeah, futures are open. We are up a little bit on the futures currently from last week's close. Definitely keep that one on watch as well. I didn't update this chart yet. Like I said, we are below the weekly 5, so be mindful of that. Um, you know, and we have a rejection so far Sunday night. We rejected that weekly 5, so be very mindful of that. So bottom line is, I wouldn't want to be a bull unless we start accepting prices above the 23,550. Until then, this still looks like a short for the NQs, looking for a break of last week's lows. So that's pretty much my primary thesis here on the NQ. That'd be what I'd be looking out for. Okay, thanks a lot.